Are you struggling to have a writing routine? Well, today we're going to be talking about 4 ways that you can help build your writing routine that is grounded in faith. So stay tuned.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write in multiple genres, including Christian fantasy.
Well, we are so happy to have everybody with us today, including our lovely live chat participants. If you're able to join us on Mondays at 10 Eastern, you can participate in the live chat environment, say hello to us, give us your topic ideas. If you are watching us on YouTube or listening to us on another streaming platform, we're also so very thankful for you. And if you are watching on YouTube, could you please like and subscribe? Could you please share? Could you please let everybody know about the Christian Indie Writers Podcast so that we can reach more people and help them along on their writing journey? We would super duper appreciate it. So good morning to you, ladies. We have a virtual roundtable at the beginning of every podcast, and we sort of say, what's up? So when I host, I like to pick on Jennifer to go first. So what's up, Jennifer?
And everything you do. I purchased this. So if you are listening and not watching, it is these little, like, I don't know what you call this thing. It's like a foot heater thing. It looks like slippers, but it's one unit, and it vibrates, which is kind of annoying. And it's supposed to heat. It's supposed to heat. It does not. I haven't, but I think I might have figured out. I don't know if I need to figure it out if I'm not doing it right. It does keep my feet warm, but I was so excited. This is one of those things that, like, you get yourself so built up, right? Like, it was I bought it at a little discount store. It was such a silly little thing. And I was just super excited. And I brought it home, showed the girls. They were excited because they all use my office, and our floors are laminate. We're in our basement. And so I always keep shoes on, or I did have a rug, which I'll move so you can see it. It's now, which way should I go? This way, I guess. Nope, this way. It's now under the other desk because Molly has claimed it as hers. So she comes in and that's where she lays when I work. Yeah. So it's one of those things, like, I feel like I can't win for losing sometimes. I get so excited about something, and then it's just such a letdown. But that was my big what's up this week. Is
will they let you return it?
Probably, but I just kind of feel like my feet are already been in it, and what are they gonna do? I don't know. Maybe. I think it was the last one though. So
well, just return it with a can of that spray they have at bowling alleys and just be like, I think you'll need it.
It was like so discounted that I feel like almost like bad returning it. So I don't know. Plus, like, the energy it takes to go over there. Am I the only one that's like that? Like, if I don't pay a whole lot for something, I will weigh out the energy that I would have to expend and the time that I would have to take out of my day to actually go return it. And, like, I usually end up just not. And that's,
you are not alone.
Lack of energy is the reason I wouldn't have gone in the first place.
I would still have cold feet. For me, it's like, if I would have spent that same amount of money, like going to lunch or going to get a coffee, or then I just, like, feel okay about just getting rid of it because I feel like I would have just ate it anyway.
Right. That's exactly. And that's the same price range. So you're right. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, good morning. We've got Sonia and Teresa in our chat. Good morning,
ladies. What's up with you, Jamie? We've missed you this last month. We got you back for another 3 days.
Show and tell. Kerr is currently hiding in shame because of his lack of fashion sense. He just can't even bear to be seen out in public. But he does have a Memorial Day cookout outfit, so I'm excited to put him in that. But so for today, I have a different what's up. And this I found at the store. And when I found at the store, I just walked around with it in my little hand and was just smiling because I just loved it so much. Okay, so here we go. It's show and tell day. All right, look at this. Can you see the hugging?
Are they seals?
They're so, and I don't know what they are. My friend
Aw.
says, "Oh, they're ghosts, they're zombies," but I don't care because look at them. They're so cute. They look like a little
They're
5-year-old
cute.
or something. And they
Yeah.
come in there and they hug. And then I put them on my table. And I just love looking at them because I think that they're just so darling.
And they're salt and pepper shakers, correct?
Yes, isn't that cute? And they have good flow too. Like I won't show you, but like these little eyeballs, they really pour some salt.
That's
But
so funny.
and then it's funny because if you bump the table, they kind of scoot apart, and then you're like, oh no, and you feel sad, and you have to put them back together. I don't know why, it just brings me so much joy. Those little salt and pepper shakers, so I had to get them.
I have a
And they're
box
cheap.
stored actually across the hall from my office right here that is full of vintage and antique salt and pepper shakers, but all of them are like unique, like little cool, like fun things. And they're stored because I don't know what else to do with them. I don't want to get rid of them because I just think they're so darn cool. They're my aunt's, but I also don't want to display them. It would literally take a whole like buffet to put them out on display. There's that many of them. And like part of me thinks I should just like give them up to someone else that would do that or that would enjoy them more. But there's just part of me that like I just think is so cool. So I would have bought those too. I think I
Why
would have
can't
seen them
you
and bought
just
them.
switch them out at the beginning of every month?
That's what I
Yeah,
was
'cause
gonna say. Just have one set out.
I don't know where I'd put them because I would not use them. Some of them are like that old that I'm like, I don't know if that's food
I
safe.
wouldn't.
I
Yeah.
don't know how clean that is.
Put 'em
Like
in with your centerpiece in the middle of your dining table.
I
That would tempt
love
people to use them.
Tina. I love that you think that my dining room table is so free of school books and purses and mail that I have a display. The display right now is grocery bags of non-perishable foods that we haven't put away in the cupboard yet. So, but I love that you think that about me. You're such a good
That
friend.
is so funny. You can make it a game in your family. Find the salt and pepper shakers,
That's a game I
and
play regularly because my husband, I have a pot salt and pepper shaker and a pot of fake Gerber daisies on the middle of my dining room table, and I have to push on my husband's tools and things and all that stuff.
We have a cute little area.
Mm.
I don't mean to like completely monopolize the what's up today, but that reminds me, and it's been a month now. But do you remember April Fool's Day? If you remember, we had the big April Fool's episode that was very popular. But do you
yes.
remember that my daughter had come in unbeknownst to me and put googly eyes on
Oh
everything,
yeah. Oh
like
yeah.
pictures and my books, and like that was her prank on me.
I
This
love
year,
it.
she found these little itty bitty rubber duckies. They weren't rubber; they were actually hard plastic, but they look like the yellow rubber duckies, and there were hundreds of them. And she posted them just randomly throughout our whole house. And we have
I
been
love
finding rubber ducks and my office had the most of them, but my kids keep finding them because like there was like a game like whoever could find the most. Shoot, I was gonna grab one out and show you, but it looks like they've all been found out of here. But yeah,
That's
she said there's
great.
still about 50 that haven't been found. We'll be finding
Which
them forever.
daughter?
So Joelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, my oldest. Yeah, she's the prankster. So
Good morning,
Nice.
Piper.
Piper says, I
said she-
bought
Yeah, go ahead.
octopus. She says, I bought octopus salt and pepper shakers. LOL. I spent an enormous amount of time choosing a set after our squirrel set broke. LOL. And then she says,
Aw.
I love that she has such a fun spirit, Jen. Me too. I know when most kids would
Mhm.
say, oh, tomorrow's April Fool's, I've been planning, I would be nervous. But with her, it's always like fun. I think it's fun. So
The
I
best
love
April
both of
Fools
those.
that ever happened in our family. Amber got an industrial staple and a pair of needle nose pliers and bent it so it was round and stuck it in her belly button. And then went up to my husband when he was like kind of relaxing on his chair with his feet up, had like half dozing, and went, Dad, don't be mad. He's like, "What?" And she lifted her shirt real fast and put it back down, and he blew a gasket. It was so funny.
That is so funny.
"Take that out right now."
Teresa says,
Teresa,
I bought those
good.
itty oh, we must have a delay. I bought those itty bitty ducks for my son's birthday and had each one worth $1 and made him do a scavenger hunt for his present because he only wanted money. It was so fun. That's a great idea. That is a great. I wonder if they make other little mini things like mini
I'm gonna
sloths
do that at
or
Christmas time with my adult kids because last
Yeah.
year I got these little puzzle boxes,
Mhm.
and the
Mm.
money was in the puzzle boxes, and it was one of those mazes with the little ball, but
Uh-huh.
it was four-sided. It was like 6 sides to the maze,
Oh, wow.
and so it was a cube, and you had to
Mhm.
get the ball into this one slot or it wouldn't unlock.
Did they enjoy that?
Yeah, they had a great time, and Amber put her money back in it and did it again. I don't know if she didn't do it on purpose, but
Just
she
how do
she
you
finally got
now
it open, and she stuck the money back in and put the lid back on, and she had to do the puzzle all over again, but now the ball was, like, way at the beginning.
Oh, wow. That's so funny. I
Yeah.
feel like I would have wanted a hammer at that point.
Mhm.
I don't have a lot of patience though, so.
What's up with you, Tina?
Well, I got nothing done this week with my
Aw.
writing career. I have some chronic illness in my life, and I've been dealing with it, and I've been sitting on my recliner with my feet up with my robe on and my blanket wrapped around me and a cup of
Mm.
tea. Like, that's
Mm.
what I did this week. So, nothing got done. I have nothing to report.
You didn't intellect at
Mm.
all even?
Oh, sure. Because I can't,
Yeah.
like, I was doing my devotions this morning. I guess I could share this. And I was like, I just saw this guy on Instagram Reels that said, this verse that says, "Be still and know that I am God." And he's like, so I go outside and I listen for 20 sounds and I count them. And then when I get to the end of those 20 sounds, then my mind is still and I can hear God's voice. And I tried that. I got to 5. I'm like, nope. Like, how do you be still and not think when that is like your number one
Mm,
strength? Or number two strength is thinking, and your brain is never quiet. Never.
mm,
Like, you couldn't quiet it if you wanted to. And I just
mm,
heard God tell me really clearly, well, if you can't stop thinking, think about Jesus.
mm.
And I was like,
That's
well,
good stuff.
that was a dumb moment, but like, of
Mhm.
course, that's what you do.
I am similar to that, and I've always been that way, and didn't this was before, there would have been any sort of, like, diagnosis or people talking about, like, I just thought everybody was like that, I guess is what I'm saying. And, growing up, my prayer life was the best that it ever was as a kid, but I would talk to myself in my head, not out loud. I wasn't that crazy, but I would talk to myself in my head as if it was God. And lots of times it's just me talking to myself, and I even knew that as a kid. It was just me talking to myself. But then every so often, I would say something that I knew I would never say to myself. Like, well, like when I be complaining about this kid at school, and then she said this, and then oh blah blah blah, and then I would hear myself say, "But did you think that maybe you did this?" And I'm like, "Oh, like you're not saying that yourself, right?" So
Right.
that's how as an adult I still do that. Like when I'm having trouble quieting myself, is I will just talk to myself like randomly about stuff. And so kind of the same thing, I guess. It just puts me in his presence, but so I'm quieting everything else,
Right.
right? I'm quieting everything else around me, but I'm in present with him. So
Yeah.
That's
so
really interesting because I kind of do the opposite because I sort of feel like in my head there's the talker and the listener. So if you sing silently happy birthday to you, there is another part of you that is listening to you. So
mhm,
anyway, if I can hook the singer of the happy birthday song into really super familiar music, I feel
mhm.
like I can kind of keep her busy and this other part can finally have peace and quiet. Does that make any sense at all?
It's
So it's kind
it
of
does
like,
make sense.
yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
me, but that's interesting to me, yeah.
Because those two voices that are talking, one is listening and one is talking. It's bizarre. Like I
Mhm.
guess Freud would have called it your ego or Jung,
Mm.
one of those guys.
Yeah, there's the
Piper's
ego and the id.
Mhm. Piper said, "I could not be still after listening to sounds of nature. I would be off on bunny trails trying to see the birds, or literal bunny trails
Yeah,
trying to see
literal,
the
that
Yes,
would
bunnies."
be
yes.
me. Like, I wanna
Yeah.
pet the little bunnies.
Well, I appreciate you all getting caught up, but we should move on to our topic of the day so that we can get everybody these awesome tips. So, what we're trying to do is help everyone to establish a writing routine. If that's something that you're hankering to do, we've got some tips for you to make it happen. So, they all are fun and they start with the letter P. So, hence the name of our episode. And who wants to speak about our first letter P, which is put?
God first in your writing habit.
All right.
And the immediate thing that I thought of when we were talking, on putting together the outline was Johann Sebastian Bach.
Mm.
He was the man of faith. And if you go and look at his, you can look them up online. Every time he started to write a score, he would write JJ at the top or at the beginning, which is a, what do you call it? It's not an acronym. Anyway, it means Jesu Juvi, which is Latin for Jesus help.
Mm.
Mm,
And when he was all done composing his piece, at the end, he would write SDG, which stands for Soli Deo Gloria, which means to God alone be the glory.
mm,
So
Wow, I
every
love
piece
that.
that he wrote, he started by saying Jesus help and ended by saying to God alone be the glory.
That's amazing. Wow.
which would be
Thank you for sharing that.
a great format for us when we are sitting down to write, right? Like, just even
Mm.
it doesn't have to be a big, huge, formal, it can be, like, I like to start off with my Bible journaling, but, it doesn't have to be just because, it could just be you start asking Jesus to help you, and then you make sure when you're done and you walk away from the computer, you thank him for it and pray that like what you wrote that day will be for his glory. And because let's be honest, if you're not in the word, if you're not starting off with God in prayer, like that, then like how can you write something that's authentic
Mhm.
to the faith, especially if you're a Christian writer writing Christian works? You have to that has to come first. And even if you're not explicitly a Christian writer, you're a Christian who writes, but your work isn't explicitly Christian. If you aren't spending time with God, how are you going to be pouring out of an empty jar? No matter
Yeah,
what work
Mm.
you're trying to do, there you have to fill that jar up first before you can fill it out.
yeah. And I don't know
I
if
just
you guys can see this, but I actually, the moment I heard that, I
Mhm.
wrote JJ up in the top
mm,
Mm,
of my
yeah, yeah, that's
I
thing.
just
awesome.
I just want to tell Piper your question about prioritizing is going to be our number 3 piece. So hang in there, Piper. We do see your question. So
Mhm.
our second P, our first P is put God first in your writing habit. Did we cover that
Right.
fully? You all have something? Okay.
No,
And
Yep.
then
no.
I just want to make sure that everyone like the scriptural reference that we wanted to use for that was Second Timothy 3:16 through 17. All scripture is God breathed and is useful for instruction, for conviction, for correction, and for training in righteousness, so that the man of God may be complete, fully equipped for every good work. So the
mm,
Timothy is telling us there that it's the scripture that equips us for every day, every good work. So,
Oh, yeah.
all right. And I personally really like number 2. And I think I'm gonna implement number 2, which is pray for God to give you the desire to write. Now, Jen, I have a little note here that you've got thoughts
yeah,
that you for
this is
sure
kind
want to
of a hot
express.
yeah, this is a hot topic for me in a little way. Yes, I do think that this is something I need to do more of, to pray for the desire to write. Not just to pray about my writing, but for the desire to write, because let's be honest, I've been struggling with that. I've been dealing with a lot of you know, I've had a lot of loss that I've experienced. I've been dealing with a lot of like mourning and sadness, and that has been affecting my creativity, but my creativity comes from God anyway. But the hot topic for me is that I'm so tired of in Facebook groups. There being Christian writing Facebook groups. There being arguments about whether or not you should make money with your books.
Really? How
Yes.
awful.
People say that, well, you should just write for God's glory. You should, if God gave you that story, then you shouldn't make any money off of that. So is that like saying that, oh, then a pastor, if you were called to preach, then you shouldn't get paid for it and you should starve? Like, it's just because God gave you this desire to write doesn't mean that you shouldn't also be putting the work into it as well. So praying that God gives you the desire and then following through when he gives you that desire it's still a work and it's still a job for you. So, but
Hmm.
but if you're only chasing so after saying all that, if you're only chasing the dollars or the genre, you may miss the story that God is trying to give you. So while you're
Mm.
praying for that desire, pray that that desire would also be made known to you of what you're supposed to be writing as well. Because part of your struggle to have a daily writing could be that it's not what you're trying to write something that's not God's plan for you.
Mhm.
Proverbs 3:6 tells us, seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. And that is true in your life as well as in your writing career.
It's very difficult I mean, we were all born in this place and time. And so I'm not
Mhm,
trying to say there's anything wrong with how things currently function. But it
mhm,
used to be once upon a time, if you wanted to eat, you needed to go out and plant food or hunt food or whatever, and then harvest it. And now that we are in this capitalistic system where we don't do that anymore, and we make money sometimes off of our intellectual gifts or off of different labors that we do, it is really confusing because to provide, what we need to survive, we're doing something that people think should be free because, well, if you've got a message from God, shouldn't that be free? But that could be thought of as your planting and your watering and your
mhm.
harvesting, right? It's
You're
still
right.
work. It still has a value in our capitalistic society. And this is how you have to pay your bills.
Now, is it possible that God could give you a story and say, "Don't charge for it"? Absolutely. That
Sure,
is
yeah.
totally, but for somebody to shame you for
Right.
having a career doing this, that's what's wrong.
And the
Yeah.
bottom line is if you're in the word and you're praying, then you're going to know what God's will is and you have to follow his will. And if his will is that you make a living on your books, then do that. And if
Mm,
his will is that you give it away for free, do that.
right? Dawn R says, "I've been totally convicted about this lately, praying before I start writing." Me too. Me too.
Mm.
And SL Perrin says, "So powerful, Tina. After or JJ, powerful Tina. After my devotions and writing my prayer journal, I started asking for God's help getting my scenes for the day. It helped."
Right.
All
Mhm.
right. And before we move on to our third P, I just want to say every time someone says God's will on this podcast, I think of Jen's will in her books. So
Will
I feel
Kathy.
like, oh, that's God's will. Follow God's will. Follow him up north or follow him down south. Anyway, sorry. Okay, so our third P, Piper had asked, Piper is a P. Piper had asked about prioritizing your writing time. Now, her specific question is if you only have so much time, how do you divide it between your devotional and writing time? That's a really good question. I don't know how to
Mhm.
answer it, folks. What do you think?
Oh my
Well,
gosh, I have
if
the
you're
perfect answer. Yeah.
prioritizing, then I would say your devotional time comes first.
Amen.
And if you don't have time to write because you've done your devotional time, then I believe if God wants you to write, there'll be time later.
Agreed. I have a
Mm.
story for this. I have a little story that happened to me this week. So we did this
Mm.
outline earlier this week, right? And so that must mean that the rest of the week I did all of these things perfect. No. So one day this week, my girls and I decided, let's get out of the house. Let's go to a coffee shop to do schoolwork. And because that's fun, right? And there's a coffee shop in Flint that has like an area with seating that was like perfect for homeschooling, and there's plugs at every spot. We're like, yeah, let's go there. Coffee's so good. And so we get there. So it takes a while to get out of the house when you have teenagers, right? I would be up and out the door and I would be starting early, but not with my teenagers. So we get there about 10:30. That's, to me, like that's half the day's gone. I feel like half my writing time's gone. But and then so we get our drinks, they got little snacks, we sit down and they get started on their schoolwork. Everyone's like to work. So I sit down, I start working, and I'm just hitting a wall, like a total brick wall. And I
Mhm.
try for about 45 minutes. And then all of a sudden, God reminds me of what I should be doing. Like, what did we just say that we're supposed to be doing? We're supposed to put him first. And
Mm.
I had not done that because my day was I can make all kinds of excuses. My day was disrupted. I didn't get started till later, and I only had this much time today to write. And God's like, I don't care. That's not what your priority is. So I put away the writing and I spent time with him instead. And I would love to tell you that then I was able to turn around and crank out some writing, but I wasn't. I was done. The time was done. But it's like that story that people tell with the rocks. If you put in the sand first, the water first, then you're not gonna be able to fit the sand and the bigger rocks. But if you put the big rocks in first, and then you can put little rocks and you shake it and then they can fit in. And then you can put the sand and then
Mhm.
shake it and it can fit in. Like, you put God first, you put the most important thing first, and everything will go in and fit in there. But I had not done that. And because of that, I lost writing time. That is so
Mhm.
I believe. But when I do put him first, somehow he multiplies time, and like
Yeah.
Tina said, later in the day, but sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes it's just being trusting with him that even if you don't get your writing time in, he's still going to accomplish his work through you if you prioritize him. So,
Right. And then our
Wow.
scripture for this section is from Colossians 3:17, and it says, "Whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to the God the Father through him."
mm,
Oh,
amen.
I'm having a hard time holding back tears because I feel like this is a great segue into our final P. Because as Jen was speaking about the rocks and, God getting his purpose done in spite of our shenanigans, I'm feeling reminded that we're the vessel. We're the vessel, what God is trying to do. And you have to practice humility and remember that you are not powerful enough to thwart God from reaching the people that he's meant to reach. So if you think
Mhm.
your one day of only doing devotionals instead of writing is going to somehow thwart God's plan or purpose, you can just put that word away. And
Right.
I really appreciate this last tip. Wow, guys, this has been a powerful episode for me personally. So what else can we say about practicing humility?
Well, I love what you said, Jamie, because honestly, like, this is me. Like, if I think that, well, I only have this much time, so I better do the writing first and I'll get to God later. Like, what? Who do I think that I am that I can accomplish this writing in this amount of time, that I have to prioritize my writing? Now, here we are. This
Mm,
whole episode is about prioritizing your writing schedule, right? But doing it
yeah.
the right way, in a way that's grounded in faith, right? So, being humble means that knowing that you are not perfect. Like, you are, God is perfect, you are not. So it's his timing and not yours. But there's other parts of your writing career too that, like, that included in this about your writing schedule. For example, like receiving criticism of your work, that's a good thing. If you
Mm,
are having trouble receiving criticism on your work, it's possible that you have a problem with humility. Um, Being humble also means taking praise in an honorable way, always pointing back to God and not getting it on in your head like, "Oh, I'm such a great writer." Again, "Oh, I'm such a great writer. I better do my writing now and I'll get to God later." What? That is not how this works. And then
I feel like this next one is me in the past.
let's hear it.
Being humble means knowing that your writing isn't the end of the work. Revision is just as important as the story itself.
mm,
Mhm.
And I've been stuck in that where I'm like, oh, look what I did, but it needed work.
Mm. It will always need work.
Hmm.
Everything that we do, like, we need work. And if we aren't willing to humble ourselves and allow the 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 Holy Spirit, and we're not willing to allow God to form us and to mold us into what he intends to mold us into, how in the world are we then in turn supposed to mold our characters into the characters they are supposed to be?
Right.
Whether you write explicitly Christian work or not,
Yeah.
you have to be pouring out of a vessel that is full of Jesus.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just going to be emptiness.
And I saw a quote the other day that said, when you're standing on the mountaintop, it's absolutely beautiful and the air is clear and it's wonderful. And you have like this feeling of awe. But the
Mm-hmm.
fruit grows in the valley.
Mm.
The fruit doesn't grow on the mountaintop.
Wow,
Wow.
that's interesting. A pastor will never say, God gave me this sermon, so I'm just going to go wing it every Sunday. Since 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 God's giving me these sermons, I can just show up Sunday morning and it'll all be good. And if they were like that, you should not be into their service. You should be finding yourself another church, right?
Right.
Why was your
Yes.
writing any different? We can't wing
Listen,
this without him.
I do appreciate, like, but what I want to say is be careful though of like a false humility. Like, I'm yes anding you because being humble, okay, a pastor would never say, God gave me this sermon, so I'm going to wing it. But then I can hear this guy argue back. But this is me being humble and letting God just be 100% in control of all of it and what I'm doing. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yes,
like you
100%.
say that the winging it is how you are being humble. So I
But then
don't even
there's
know what
Here's
my
my
point
answer.
is.
Oh,
there's scriptures that say, "Study to show thyself approved," and
amen.
faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And
Mm.
so there's, and I could go on, and
Right.
so you can't have that faith and have those messages unless you're in it.
Right. And if you've been a fan of ours for more than 5 minutes, you'll know what I'm about to say. You've heard me say it over and over and over again. But if God gave you your story, it deserves your time and your effort and your prayer life to make it the best story it can be.
Do it for the
Mm.
glory of God.
Enough said. Yep. Do it for the glory of God.
I love it. What a
What
nice
is that?
witty
What
bow.
is that? Those initials, DSG, Dole. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get it messed
Deo
up.
sol
Silly.
glory,
So,
right?
Mm.
to God alone be the glory.
I got that
So now,
song
so
in
now
my
that we
head
have this episode, you all know that we do this all perfectly every single week. And
now.
you can look to us as the beacons of truth for you. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Like this
because
is
I love routine so much.
I
Routine is
know.
my middle name. Is this the April Fool's episode?
But I think we need to have episodes like this, not only that point to
Mhm.
God and that remind us that this is a Christian podcast, to remind us
Yeah.
that all of our writing comes from one source, but also to like be accountable. I'm not doing this all right. I'm not. And I need to. And this is a reminder to me as well. Because remember, this podcast started just the four of us so that we would not lose track of each other.
Yeah.
Right. Well, here we are, the three of us right now. I don't want to lose track of each other. This is where I'm struggling. I am struggling with the desire. That's my struggle right now. The desire to write for obvious reasons. You all know what's happened to me in the past couple of years. I am still struggling with deep sadness most of the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
I can put on a good front, but when you're by yourself with your laptop, that front is no longer there. You don't have to hold it up for anybody.
Right.
Um, so we struggle. So I covet your prayers. I want to also in turn pray for you. If there is any of these areas that you're struggling with right now and you would like to confess that and put yourself out there for prayer, come to the Facebook group and share that. And we have such a great community of
Mhm.
writers in that group that support each other, pray for each other, laugh together.
Mhm.
It's a great group and we want to be that for you. And we're here. The difference about this podcast is it's a community. It's not just us.
Right. And if you don't want to share it with everyone, you feel free to send a private message.
Yeah. And then we'll
I
share it with
really
everybody. Just kidding.
We're going to announce it on the podcast next week.
Jen, I really thank you and appreciate your vulnerability. And it is very true. I have a very similar lack of desire, to do it. And it's so funny too, because it's this contradiction of like, oh, I know I'll publish this book, and yet I'm doing zero of the work that would require. So how can the two exist in the same place? So I really can relate, and I appreciate everybody that I know is praying for us, and I really, really do take it to heart.
And
Thank you, Jen, for being
I
vulnerable.
have the desire. I don't have the energy,
Mm.
mental energy, physical energy. I just need to get my health back where it needs to be so that I can actually do a good job.
Mm.
Well, and before we move on to the next segment of the podcast, I just want to say, if you saw me zoning out while Tina was talking about being up on the mountaintop, and just before that, Jen was talking, and so the two of you got me into this headspace where I was thinking about, it was talking about how this is God's thing to get done through you, and like you're the little vessel and everything like that. And it just kind of triggered to me that this is how we can treat our characters as well. So if we have the end that we know that we're driving at in our story, we know that at the end of the story, X, Y, or Z happens. We can think of our little characters as vehicles or vessels for getting there. And then all of the trials and tribulations that we put them through can be a means to that end. And I just wanted to
That's great. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So thanks for hearing me out there. We're going to move on to the feeding of the backs. The what? Well, when we used to go around the table at writing group and talk about each other's piece, we would give each other feedback. And then I would turn to somebody and say, is your back well fed? Which is a very polite way of saying, can we move on now? Or do you have questions for us? Or do you need more information? So we are going to do feeding of the backs at our little round table here virtually. And what that means is we set a timer for 50. Am I still here? My StreamYard did a thing. Did I skip out?
My StreamYard did a thing too. I think that StreamYard's having issues today. So I apologize to all the listeners, but
when the timer went off, we stopped writing, and now we're going to share them with you without editing. And we hope that you also will write something to this prompt and share it with us in the Facebook group or privately. So Jen, what was our prompt and what did you write?
All right. So today we had 5 words, and they all start with P to keep on brand today. The words were prayer, powder, philosophy, plaster, promote. And I only got one word in, and I had to stick it at the last sentence because when the timer went off, I was like, whoa, I didn't get anywhere near where I thought I was going to get with the story, this scene. So, okay, here we go. It was early. Too early in Colleen's opinion, but she hadn't been able to sleep anyway, so she supposed beginning her day before the sun chose to do the same really wasn't that big of a deal. And it would have been just fine sitting close to the newly stoked fire she had just revived from last night's leftover coals, listening to the early morning trill of the pine warbler somewhere in the pre-dawn darkness, using its call to beckon the rest of creation awake. Yes, that would have been just fine for her to do that alone. But apparently, Cade McNeil had the same difficulty sleeping, for she had no sooner got the fire nice and hot, and he was at her side, readying for the morning meal. She hadn't asked for him to make breakfast. He just began the work, as if it was the most normal thing in the world for a man to cook. It was clear he had done it many times, which was no surprise. A veteran cowboy knew how to do such things out on the range, but in any of the previous drives Colleen had participated in, the men had left the task to her. She hadn't really thought much about it, but now watching Cade go about the business of coffee and eggs, she wondered why. Why hadn't the other men cooked? It was a simple enough job. If she could do the work of a man while on the drive, why couldn't any of them do the work of a woman? She watched as Cade poured the coffee grounds into the pot, followed by water. Then she watched in disgust as he grabbed the discarded eggshells, crushed them in his hands to a near powder, and threw them in the coffee pot as well. 3, 2, 1. That's it.
Oh, I had heard of people putting in shells. Why? Tell me, spoil it for me.
So the coffee pots were different. They boiled the water with the grounds, and then the eggshells helped to keep the coffee grounds to the bottom, fall to the bottom,
Oh,
so that when they poured
okay.
it, the coffee grounds didn't get in their cup.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you could have given me any answer. You could have said, "Oh, they sprouted wings after they drank." Anyway, thank you. I really loved that. I felt like it was the perfect amount of show don't tell. And
Okay.
I really liked that you had a description of what he was cooking and things like that. But it was very much about her and him and not as much about like home on the range. And I thought that
Mhm,
was an excellent choice. I don't know if it was the limits of time that had you make that choice or just a decision.
mhm. I don't know. It was a sprint.
I really just got hung up on the line about the bird. What was it? The
Mm.
something warbler,
The
Pine
pine
warbler?
warbler.
pine warbler, greeting the dawn.
Mm,
Like my brain just kind of just grabbed that and just stuck right there.
mhm. I'm
'Cause
glad, because that's why I didn't get as much written, was crafting that. I just was there. Like, I just that yeah.
yeah,
So I'm
that
glad
whole
that that worked.
section
So
right there is just
so
really
What?
that was
grabbed
like
me.
your voice. That was your actual writer's voice that I was appreciating. It was like your balance of, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's in the scene, put the yes. Sorry.
Yeah. We're losing Jamie again.
Oh
So,
Yeah, it's a little
no.
choppy sometimes, yeah.
yeah.
That
Ever
makes me
s
mad. Should I turn my camera off?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's see if that's better with your camera
Yeah,
off.
because it's your turn to read what you wrote,
Mhm.
Okay.
and we
So
wanna hear every word.
yes, well, I like Jen think I got one word in, and this ended up turning into sort of I don't know. Maybe just
All right,
a
Jamie, I don't know if you can hear me, but, you are breaking up really bad. So, what if I were to read your piece? Because I can access it, if that would be okay with you. That
it
way
is if you
everyone
can
gets
hear me.
I can hear you now, yep. That way we just know that we're not gonna lose you, so
All right.
alright. So, I'll try to give it the same finesse that Jamie does, but it won't be as good for sure.
Yeah, she's definitely got a gift.
She sat Yes, she does. She sat on the dog hair covered sofa, stained with something or some things unidentifiable, smoothing her skirt absently and moving her eyes about the room, simultaneously searching it for clues to the personalities of its inhabitants and making an assessment of what the items were worth. There were no books on the shelves above the large oak desk, which sat across from her like a lone rock in an ocean of blue shag carpet. Instead, the shelf surfaces were scattered with fabric totes, faded with time and the indirect sunlight that streamed into the room from between the slats of the rows of blinds to her right. In the spaces between these baskets were strewn the sorts of items poor people bought at flea markets, believing them to be of greater value than they paid, and a bust of an unidentifiable figure, certainly not of plaster, but of cheap resin, yellowed with age. The door opened and a couple came in. Her accordion pleated ankle length skirt brushed against navy pumps and was a shade of blue lighter than the carpet. And with her approach, one was made to feel like the sky was rolling in over the shag pile, and her white twin sweater set provided the cloud component that completed the illusion. The man was clad in an olive and maroon plaid pant and vest combination with a long sleeved shirt beneath the red of the vest. That matched the red of the vest, excuse me. His tie was a navy blue. This could be forgiven if one were to consider, based on the decor of his domicile, that this was likely the only tie he owned. "We'll be right with you," he said, offering a greasy smile as the woman placed a stack of files she'd brought in on the mammoth desk. He began to sort through the files, and the visitor wondered that the wire-frame glasses with round lenses perched precariously on the end of his nose miraculously did not slip off. I must remember all of this, she thought, and wished she had opted to bring with her a notepad and a pen. Doing so, however, would have destroyed the illusion that she was there to be nothing more than a courier. She could not let them know her real purpose, her real or her true identity. Not yet. That's it.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry I started through that. That was really good. But
I'm
I was
sorry about the title. Thanks for
Oh, okay. We're losing Jamie. All right, I'll let you go first, Tina, since they've heard a lot of my voice.
Yeah, I love her descriptions of everything. Like I can see the skirt and the shoes and the guy's
Mhm.
suit and the carpet and the
Mhm.
desk. Like everything is so clear and I can almost smell it.
Yes.
So her descriptions are just really good, and I'm just so curious. Like, are they auditing these people? Like, what is going on, and
Mhm.
what is her true identity?
Yes. Like the mystery is like
So
awesome.
I'm hooked.
And like she tells us the time period without telling us the time period. Jamie is so
Yes,
good at that. She is so good at like building a scene that not only shows you the room, but it gives you the decade. It gives you the time period. It gives you like, what is happening in the world around her so that you know when it was set up. And I love that so much about this. And of course, like she sets it all up with like for the end. It was such a great end because now we know it's a mystery and we want to know what's going on. Piper says the couple reminds me of the Danny DeVito couple in Matilda. Yes, that is a really
I've never
good.
seen that. Maybe I'll have to go
Oh,
see it.
you gotta watch. Yeah, you need to watch Matilda. It's a fun watch. I think your granddaughter will love watching it with you.
Okay.
So yeah, really
Alright,
good.
is there any
Well done.
for me at all? Any
Yeah, we can't hear you, Jamie. Maybe if you try going out and coming back in, maybe it would help. I'm not really sure, but we really aren't getting anything. I'm so sorry. Teresa Thomas says, I walked in the room in middle of the reading and immediately thought, why is Jen reading Jamie's piece without having been told what was going on? That's so exciting. So you could tell that just from the writing that it was Jamie's. That's exciting. I love that.
Yeah, she's definitely got her own voice.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All
How is it
righty.
going? Can you hear me in any way?
I can hear you now. Yes. We'll see how this goes.
Hooray! Well, just in time to
Yay.
introduce Tina and to tell everybody thank you for the kind words. I was really wondering with this if it was too much or boring, but I just wrote what I liked and wanted to, and it seems like it works. So happy me.
Yeah, that's the beauty of sprints is that you just write what comes out, right? Editing can come later, and not everything you write will be a sprint. Like you sometimes you'll sit and you will craft. But the beauty of a sprint is you just kind of get something out and that you don't even know is in there. So well done,
Love it.
Jamie. Yeah.
Thanks. What did you write for us today, Tina?
Well, I didn't write anything in any of my worlds of any of my novels anywhere.
Ooh.
Alrighty then.
So this is just I just came up with this idea for a fun way to get all the words in.
All
Mm.
right.
Maggie sat in her armchair, her crossword book on the armrest, staring at the popcorn ceiling. She tapped her pen absent-mindedly and jiggled her foot up and down, grunting every now and then, taking a drink of her iced herbal tea and staring at the ceiling again. What is it? Her husband Jim asked. 7-letter word, starting with P, meaning a new beginning. Prayer, said Jim. Oh, come on, he yelled at the ball game on the TV. That's only 6, and it doesn't mean a new beginning. Starts with a P, he said. Come on, guys, let's see what you can do. Maggie sighed and rolled her eyes, then resumed her tapping, jiggling, and staring at the popcorn ceiling. What is it now? Asked Jim. Same, 7-letter word, meaning a new beginning. Philosophy. Yes, run, run! That's way more letters than 7, and again, it doesn't mean a new beginning. But it starts with a P, he replied before shouting once again at the TV in frustration. Maggie sighed again. You're no help at all, she said. Then quit asking me for help, he replied. I didn't. Jim turned to her and raised his eyebrows. We've been married 35 years, and I know you better than you know yourself. When you tap your pen and bounce your foot and stare at the ceiling, it means you want my help. No, it just means I'm thinking. Plaster, said Jim. Starts with a P, 7 letters. But it doesn't mean a new beginning, Maggie replied, trying to tone down the exasperation in her voice. Well, I guess you won't promote me to super husband then, because I have no idea. Go, 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 he shouted. Maggie stared at her crossword, then grinned. That's it, she said. You're a genius. What? What did I say? He gave her a confused look for only a second, then turned back to the TV. Why, oh, why do these idiots always choke in the last inning? He said. Promote. What? That's what you said. That's the 7-letter word starting with P that means a new beginning.
Yay!
Yay!
The timer went off right at the right moment.
That's perfect. I love that you did something completely different with these words. And I love that, like, someone who feels like, oh, how do these words go together? You can write something like this. The whole point is to get writing, right? I love this character. I love the husband watching baseball. Like, it felt so like real, like very
Mhm.
relatable. And I
Thanks.
thought it was really cute how you used the words. So I loved it.
Yeah, I want to grab onto the relatability component and say that there's a TikTok trend going around right now where this one woman is like, people who are married say marriage is hard. What do they mean? And then people respond with like their examples. And I feel like the whole first part of this would have been a great response because it's kind of
Mhm.
like, I'm not asking for your help with the crossword puzzle. Oh, yes, you are, anyway. But yes, for the relatability factor, for sure, that's a win. And I kept thinking, well, is it popcorn? No, popcorn doesn't mean a new beginning, but I was counting the letters. Like, I really like this story independently of what prompted it. So it's a really good story. Good job.
Yeah, that's fun, Tina.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Teresa agrees. It was fun. And Piper also says, oh my gosh, this is awesome, Tina. Super great. Well, I'm happy that I am able to help close out the podcast with our final segment, which is what's next. So when we end the episode, we go around the virtual roundtable and we ask each of the co-hosts what's next for your personal or writing career. So, Jen, what's next?
Well, I am going to be putting the Lord first every day when I'm writing this week. I'm going to be praying for a desire to write. And I'm also going to be working on the blurb for book 4. I have not written it yet. So you two be ready, because when I get a rough draft written, I'm sending it to you two to look at, because the blurb is the worst, and it always takes other people to look at it to see what's bad about it, or to polish it up, because it's hard to write, first of all, and make it not like a synopsis, right? And then it's even harder to, once you finally do something that is like kind of it's a blurb, to like, what's wrong with it? Why isn't it good enough? So just giving you guys a heads up, that's coming to you this week.
Yeah, not all bad words have 4 letters. Some have 5. ELURB.
Yeah. That's great.
Oh man. All right. Yeah, I will look forward to reading it, Jen. I'm excited about you getting the book out.
All right,
Yeah, me
thanks.
too.
What's next for you, Jamie? Besides
I
reading my
like
blurb.
you. Yeah, reading your blurb. And also, I'm going to be also praying for the desire because I have not specifically been doing that. And like Tina said, it's a oh duh moment. So
Yeah.
yeah, like it's so funny because I really feel like I'm fixing to get ready for a very long time now and
Mm.
haven't really gotten to go just on your mark, get set. And so that's super interesting. So we will see what the results of that. And also, I think it's really neat that Johann Sebastian Bach would write JJ because, like, I could do that and everybody would just think it was like egotism because my mom would call me JJ because my first name is Jamie. So it's very
Uh-huh.
funny. I do like that idea, and I like the idea of it being with a hand and with a pen because remember how we talked about there's something about that. Even though
Mhm.
I write on the computer. So maybe just the exercise of maybe writing it on a scratch pad or something would be something I
Mhm.
would implement. But I do really love the taking a physical moment to acknowledge God in addition to just a mental assent to it. I like this. And so I might consider a way I can incorporate it if not from JJ. What about you, Tina?
Wonderful.
What's next for you?
Well, I want to talk about what's next for the podcast. If you are on our Patreon, on our $5 level, we have a live Q&A coming up where you can ask us any writing question you want live on a Zoom call. So it's interactive. We can all see and talk to each other. And that's going to be on May 5th. It's a Sunday night and it's going to be at 8:30. And the Bible study for
That's this
next,
Sunday.
is it?
Yeah. Welcome to
And
May.
Oh, wow. I got to get prepared. The Bible study this month is going to be on a Thursday night at 7 p.m. and that is going to be on the 23rd. And we had such a great time at the last one, totally geeking out over God's word, that I turned the record button off and we just kept going. So it was a great
Oh,
night.
Mm.
So hopefully we'll see some of you there.
that's
All
going to
right.
be this Sunday for the Q&A, right?
Yep.
Right. So it's not too late if you have not become a patron yet. You still have time to become a patron and join us this Sunday night for that.
All right. So that's all of us. And in the comments, Piper says that she is going to be trusting God's plan and direction and writing out in bullet points what she's got figured out of her story so far. Good plan, Piper. We'll see how you do next week with the what. Let us know
Okay.
how that goes.
I will turn
right.
you into a plotter yet, Piper.
Piper the plotter. It has a ring to it. All right. So I guess that concludes this week's episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. So until next week, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.
Bye now.
Bye.